Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel and another tutorial. Today I am showing you how to make the Marilyn wallet by Lindshandmade. Let me show you some of the features of this bag, or of this wallet. So you have a top zipper pocket here. This is the hardest part of making this wallet, I'll tell you. It is closed with a turn lock, and when you open it up, you have two pockets here for bills or receipts or what have you. You have 10 card slots. One of them in front of it has a ID window, and it has a little pen pocket. You can't really see it because I have it all one color right in the center here. I made this one in partially vinyls. That did create it to be quite thick at the seams here. So I would recommend doing it in cotton if you want, or a thinner vinyl. I mean, I still got through it, but I was on an industrial machine keeping my Titan here. What did I use? This is just a quilting cotton here. This here is part of the pearl line. This is the Lagoon Pearl from Galaxy Customs. All of my zippers and zipper pulls are from Blue Cala. Interfacing in this bag, I use Peltex, and I think that's it. Oh, Peltex, as well as EB Fuse Light from Emma Line Bags. Anyways, without further ado, let's get making this bag.
All right, you're going to need number 5 zipper tape, a number 5 zipper pull, a turn lock. You're going to need a card template from the pattern, 2 card accent pieces here. All my woven is backed with woven interfacing. Your pen pocket piece 1, your pen pocket piece 2, 2 card accent pieces, the larger ones, 2 lining pieces, 2 zipper pocket liners, your flap, an exterior and a lining. And on my exterior, I already have it backed with fusible fleece. Your main body piece, and I have this backed with fusible fleece outside of the seam allowances. Your Peltex piece for your interfacing for the main body. Your flap interfacing, which is Peltex, and I've already cut out my hole for my turn lock. And of course, clear piece of vinyl for your ID slot. 2 more Peltex pieces, which you'll see what we do with them in the construction of the bag. And your card slot pieces with 2 pieces of EB Fuse Light. And your zipper tabs. All right, so I did this wrong here. So you're going to measure down 2 inches. That is correct. And then I only measured down 6 inches, but this should actually be 6 inches from that 2-inch mark, or 8 inches down. I do correct this later on. So what you're going to do is you're going to pull that 8-inch line up to that 2-inch line and give it a good press with your iron. And now my card template piece, I actually made out of card stock just to give it a nice, it helps give it a nice crisp edge when you're doing this. So what you're going to do is put that right up against that fold line, and then you are going to fold the card fabric up to the line on the card template, and then give that a good press. Lots of steam helps here. Okay, and then I just like to measure. They should be about a 1/2 inch apart, each from fold to fold. Take your card template again. You're going to put it against that fold that we just created, and then pull it up again, like this, to that line. Give it a good press, and you are going to repeat this until you have 5 card slots. Line it up again with that fold we just made. Create your next fold by pulling up the fabric, like so, to that line. Now as I go, sometimes it gets a little oblong, so I will go and I will repress these so they are nice and even, and if they're going off kilter, so kind of just keep an eye on it, like I'm doing here. It went a little bit crooked, so I'm just straightening it out. Okay, and 1 more to go. Okay, so I'm just double checking that they're all about 1/2 inch, and I'm going to just take some cards and make sure they all fit in properly so I know that I did my folds correctly. And I'm good. Okay, now from the top end, we want to measure down 8 inches as per the pattern and trim the card slots up. And again, straighten up the sides and cut these to the width and the length as specified in the pattern. Okay, now what we want to do is we want to flip the card slots over, and we're going to take those 2 pieces of woven interfacing that we had, and we are going to line them along the sides. This is where you can see where I made one of my card slots a little bit too shallow. Maybe you can't see it because it's black here, but yeah, that's what happens. Okay, so I fused that on here. Now I'm going to find my center, which should be approximately 3 inches, and I'm going to take my Choco and draw a line down that. And just double check that that is indeed centered. Okay, and I'm going to take my ID window and I'm going to put it on the left hand side here, and it's going to overlap that chalk line just slightly, and that is okay. I'm going to use some clips to hold that in place. Okay, I'm just going to put some clips in here just to make sure that my card slots do not move, because we are going to take this to the machine and baste it. Okay, so we're going to baste down here, across the bottom. Now we're going to go up just to the right of the center line, over a bit, and then just to the left of the center line, down this way, across the bottom, and up the side again. Okay, so this is what we have, and now what we're going to do is we are going to cut this in half right along that chalk line that we just drew. And this is going to give us our 2 card slot panels. All right, so now we're going to take our card accent pieces, and on the back side of one, on the right side of the back, I'm going to draw a line 1/4 inch in, and on the other one you want it opposite and draw a line 1/4 inch in on the left hand side of the back. And then we're going to take these 2 little Peltex pieces and fuse them on like so. Okay, so we have them here. So we have our accent piece right side down with the Peltex facing to the right, and we're going to put it right sides together with our card slot that had the clear ID window on it. Okay, and then we're going to stitch across this with 1/4 inch seam allowance. You're going to do the same but opposite direction with the other panel. Okay, you can see I'm chain sewing them here. It's just to save on cutting thread. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we are going to press this like so. We want the seam going towards that Peltex piece. Now we are going to take our other little skinny accent pieces and put them along the opposite side. And do the same on the other one. Okay, and now you're going to press this so the seam is going towards that side accent piece. Give that a good press. Okay, so now what you're going to do is right along that Peltex piece, you're going to use that as your guide, and you are going to fold it over nice and snug against that Peltex. So you're bringing wrong sides of these panels together, folding them in half. And then on the opposite side, it's okay if it's uneven. We will trim that up later and go ahead and just secure them with clips. Okay, now we're going to go ahead and top stitch down each of those folds on both panels. Okay, so you can see I've done my top stitching here and here. I'm just going to double check again that my card slots fit, and they do. And I'm going to go ahead and trim off this excess that we have hanging over. Okay, now we're going to work on the pen pocket. So you're going to take pen pocket 1 and fold it in half and go ahead and top stitch along that fold. Like so, and then you're going to take pen pocket piece 2 and you are going to take the first pocket piece and line it up with one of the short ends. And then we're going to take this and baste this into place. Okay, now we're going to take our liner pieces. We're going to put it right sides together, one of the liner pieces right sides together with our pen pocket. And we are going to stitch these together, fold it out, and with the seam pointing towards the liner piece, give it a good press. And then we're going to top stitch along here on the liner piece. Then you're going to repeat the exact same thing with the other side. Okay, so this is what we have here. Now the pen pocket should measure approximately 1 inch. So from where that seam is, we want to measure to the right 4 inches, because in all we need this piece to be 9 inches. So 4 inches on either side of the pen pocket, and then the pen pocket's 1 inch. So 4 plus 4 plus 1 equals 9. And I'm just going to double check that. All right, so I'm going to straighten up my edges down here because I've gone a little bit off kilter. And then I'm going to make sure that this measures the width and the length as per stated in the pattern. and you will trim the excess off of the top. Or sorry, yes, off of the top. Okay, so now you're going to take the card slots that have the ID window and you're going to put it right side up on top of the lining piece on the left hand side. So both of these pieces are right side up. And you're going to do the same with the other side. Now you may be noticing my lining pieces are a little bit wrinkly. Now that is because my machine is not meant for lightweight fabrics and I did it anyways. All right, so once you have those all basted together, we are going to work on our main body. So what we want to do is on the ID side, we are just going to use our pattern piece and we are going to just round those corners like so. Okay, so our flap, take your two flap pieces and put them right sides together. And we are going to go ahead and sew those together with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Now, I am doing this a little bit opposite. I have my lining as a vinyl and my exterior as a cotton. Okay, so once that's done, you want to just take your pinking shears or do small notches all the way around the curves. And then you can go ahead and you can turn that right side out. Make sure you press out all of those seams. If you're using all cotton, you can definitely take this to an iron, but I am using vinyl on my bottom piece, so I'm just going to finger press it best I can. Okay, so this is where we take our Peltex piece and we are going to stuff it in. Now, if it seems like it's a little bit too big still, you can go ahead and you can trim a little bit off like I am doing here. And you want to make sure that goes nice and snug against our seam. Also make sure it is about a 1/2 inch or so away from the top opening of this. Just reduce and bulk later. You're going to go ahead and top stitch along here and baste along the top like so. Now we are going to install our turn lock. So that is why we cut out pieces in our Peltex piece and in our fusible fleece just to make it a little less bulk to have to punch the hole through. So you want to make sure it's nice and centered. I'm kind of feeling where my hole is. And I believe this was about an inch or so up. Look at the pattern to make sure where you are going to put your turn lock. So then you're going to take the washer of your turn lock and center it there, and that is where you're going to punch your hole. Okay, so I've done that and I have installed my female part of my turn lock. So now what we want to do is not the rounded part of our lining piece, but the straight edge. We want to find our center. And then we're going to take our flap and match up our centers. Both of these are right sides up. Clip it in place. Make sure that it is centered, just measuring from the sides. And then you can take it to the machine and baste this in place. Okay, so now let's work on our zipper pocket. Now I'm doing this slightly different. I'm using vinyl as my zipper ends. So I'm taking my two vinyl pieces, putting it right sides together with the zipper, and I'm going to use sew these on with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Okay, so that is done. So now I'm going to fold these back nice and taut against that seam and then fold it over the other side. Now only do this if you're using a material that you can leave raw, because this will have a raw edge on the bottom side. And then you're going to go ahead and top stitch that with an 1/8 inch seam allowance. There we go. And now we can flip over on the back side and trim off that excess vinyl. and then trim up those tabs so they are the same width as our zipper. Okay, so now we are going to add our zipper pocket liners to our zipper. So I'm finding my centers. And I am going to use double-sided tape. If your machine can't handle the double-sided tape, you can use clips. And then we want to put the zipper nice and centered with our lining piece. Now keep in mind, the way I'm doing the zipper does not go all the way to the ends. And the reason I do that is because I want it to stay out of the seam so it's not too bulky. So I'm going to go ahead and line up my centers. I'm going to make sure that they're the same width on either side apart, which is about 3/4 of an inch. Then I'm going to take some more double-sided tape and put it along the straight edge of our lining pieces, or our wallet lining pieces. And then I'm going to put this right sides together with the zipper tape in that lining piece. Again, use clips if you can't use tape. And then go ahead and sew across here. Once you've done that, push the lining piece, just the lining piece, away and top stitch through that lining piece. Okay, so that's one done. Now for the other side, we're going to do in a similar fashion. Take your other lining piece, line it up with the unsewn side of the zipper, nice and centered. And then take our exterior main panel, which is the back of the wallet. I'm actually just going to use these big clips to hold my flap down in place. And put this right sides together with the zipper tape on that unsewn side of the zipper. And then go ahead and sew this into place. Okay, so now we can actually top stitch through our lining and our exterior piece of this. I'm going to use a little bit of tape because I cannot press this vinyl with an iron, and I just want to make sure that my seam is nice and taut here, like so. And same with the back lining piece. Okay, and top stitch along here with 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. So I went ahead and I put in my nameplate as well. And now to put it all together. So you're going to take your 2 zipper pocket lining pieces. Now the zipper tabs we want to be kind of folded and poking down towards the zipper pocket lining. So clip these in place. This is going together just like a zipper pouch now. And match up the seams on the other side, again having the zipper tabs folded pointing towards the lining of the zipper pocket. And clip all the way around, matching our raw edges. Okay, so we're going to start with a 1/2 inch seam allowance, but when we get to this bottom curve, we are going to only do a 1/4 of an inch seam allowance all the way to here, and then branch out into a 1/2 inch seam allowance for the rest. Now the seam here, this is where I said it gets really thick, especially if you use vinyl like me, and I just used my hump jumper to get over that thick part. And I have my zipper foot on my machine because it just helps get really close to that zipper tab without running through the zipper tab. Okay, so on the corners here, I'm just going to go ahead and use my pinking shears just so I get a nice corner. And then go ahead and turn this right side out. It's a little bit tough, but as soon as you get that flap through, it comes through easy. Make sure you press out all of those seams really good, especially around those rounded corners. So you want to have a really nice shape. I'm just using a turning tool here to poke out those zipper ends. And the corners. Okay, so now we need to put in our main body piece. So you're going to kind of roll it, your interfacing up like this, and stick it in through the opening of that zipper pocket. And roll that interfacing nice and flat inside. Again, if it's too big, go ahead and trim it down a little bit and keep doing it till it fits well. Okay, so mine is in good. I am just going to fold this up. Now you want to make sure that those bottom rounded corners are hidden by the flap. Make sure it's all good. And now I'm going to fill it up because we're going to mark the placement of the male part of our turn lock. So I have this as full as I would be filling it. I'm folding it in half. Our accent pieces should actually line up nicely when folded. Fold down the flap, and in the center of our turn lock, once I have it where it's going to go, I am going to take my Tandy leather pen and I'm just going to put a dot in the center of that turn lock, and that is going to mark where I'm going to do my slits for the male portion. Okay, so when you go to cut your slits for the male portion, now you want to reach in behind the Peltex piece because we want to cut through the exterior piece as well as cutting through the Peltex piece for stability. So I'm going to reach in and make sure my Peltex piece is up against the vinyl side of my bag or the exterior side of my bag. Careful not to cut your hands, and you're going to cut through the exterior piece and that Peltex piece and put your male turn lock in, and then reach in and install the washer as well. Okay, so I've done that. I'm also going to take a piece of Gorilla Tape or duct tape and I'm just going to put it along the prongs of that turn lock just to ensure it's not going to rub against those lining pieces, creating a hole with use. Make sure that it still lines up good and we are golden. And now all that's left to do is to close up our turning hole in our pockets. So you're going to press under the raw edges by about 1/4 of an inch or so, and then top stitch that shut. And that is done.